Hi, it's Ross with Manhwa Narrate. This is the recap of the manhwa I Am the Strongest Boss. If you like this recap, then please leave a like and consider subscribing. Thank you. The story begins in the heart of a massive graveyard for countless corpses individuals. Many lives were sacrificed in the relentless pursuit of victory in the completion of the demonic tower. Long ago, the world's last days damned, and the demonic tower surfaced. Humans awakened their supernatural abilities to fight against the demons that emerged from the demonic tower. In the course of time, generations of heroes perished, and generations of newcomers rose to prominence. Finally, a hero was born out of the blue, and with incomparable talent, near-perfect intelligence, and amazing luck, he actually made it to the highest floor of the tower. The strongest force of current humanity. The one with the best hope of ending all darkness, popularly known as the Light of Humanity, Lin Xiao. Staring intensely ahead, Lin Xiao thought of how this was his third time he'd returned to complete the demonic tower. Only this time, whether it's attributes or skills, he'd honed them all to the max. Additionally, he'd also obtained all the most powerful weapons and equipment known in the world. According to the system interface's prompts, clearing the demonic tower's last floor would end everything. He made it so far, all thanks to the step-by-step hints and help given by the system interface over these years. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to find any information about the demonic creatures on the highest level of the demonic tower, and the system can't find any information about them either. Behind him, two of his subordinates murmured in admiration of how their leader might be thinking of some woman again. Hearing this, Lin Xiao turned to face them and said he was just thinking of the aftermath once they defeated the Demon King. Both men thought quietly, staring at Lin Xiao's impromptu expression. Sighing softly, Lin Xiao thought quietly of how he was always misunderstood when he takes a look at the system interface. After all, he was the only one in this world who can see it, so he has no choice but to cook up some random justification every time he is asked. And with that, after what feels like a lifetime of suffering, they approached a huge decorative pair of doors. As they strode towards an array of sparkling blue crystals, they entered a room. Upon entering, they were confronted with the luxurious and beautiful layout of the room. As they admire such heavenly appearance, Lin Xiao commented on how angels are horrible in appearance to scare off demons, while demons were beautiful in appearance to entice humans into letting their guard down. The three men with him started complimenting him about how he confronted all the lower-level demons as if he'd killed them countless times before, knowing their weakness and skills like it was the back of his hand. Lin Xiao soaked everything in and wondered silently of how this was his first time being on the very top floor in his third attempt of regression. Right on cue with her simping, the red-haired girl started crazily praising Lin Xiao that with him here, they were going to win, breezing through this floor like the others. Unfortunately, her bootlicking session was cut short as she and the others three were decapitated with their all-praise Lin Xiao expression on their faces. What the? Lin Xiao watched the scene and wondered what just happened. He then took a stance as a figure approached him swiftly from behind. In a flash, this dark and ominous figure was literally standing behind Lin Xiao, welcoming him. Scared shitless, Lin Xiao turned and shouted, questioning like an idiot, "Who's there?" Staring at the figure, Lin Xiao wondered what demon it was, since he didn't even sense anything approaching. Lin Xiao swung his sword decisively and with his full might. With a casual flick of a finger, the figure blocked Lin Xiao's attack like it was nothing. And with a dark and ominous aura, he mocked Lin Xiao's sword as it was unfortunate to have him as the opponent in this fight. Lin Xiao stared at his broken sword, which was considered the strongest weapon in the world, in disbelief. Again, the figure disappeared in front of Lin Xiao and suddenly reappeared behind him, questioning what the fuck he was looking at. Without any brief moment of respite, Lin Xiao turned with a look on his face like he was about to shit himself. His eyes widened, and with the wave of the figure's hand, Lin Xiao was trashed across the room like a rag doll, hitting the wall, denting it greatly. Brutally battered and immobilized, Lin Xiao gritted his teeth and answered his own question earlier, though he was puzzled as to how a demon can be in the form of a human. The figure stood directly in front of Lin Xiao with his intimidating and suppressive aura coming off in waves. The Demon King, born from the dark aspect of humans, the embodiment of all the fears known to humans. So by nature, it's plausible that he was in the form of a human. With great effort, Lin Xiao activated his skill, Eye of Truth, and checked the Demon King's stats. However, he was shocked to find out that the Demon King's health wasn't affected in any way after his attack, and his magic stats was infinite, therefore, implying that he was invincible. Moments later, Lin Xiao's system immediately begun to warn him about the severity of his situation. Lin Xiao tried to calm himself when he saw this. However, that went out the window when the Demon King grabbed the system and shattered it into multiple pieces. Staring at his hands, the Demon King commented on how the piece of junk system, which was only visible to Lin Xiao, was guiding him all this time. Was that why he was able to find those unique weapons and props? Anyway, he neither knew nor cared, but it's gone now. Lin Xiao lost it, screaming loudly of what the Demon King had done to his system. Ignoring his feeble tantrum, the Demon King lifted a finger, commenting that even if it was invisible to him, it would have been pointless in aiding him regardless. After all, he's invincible. As Lin Xiao stared powerlessly at the approaching finger, he thought of how he's at death's doorstep again. Although he had died before, it was truly scary this time around than the previous two. Even up to this moment, he hadn't been able to come up with the faintest prospect of defeating the Demon King. But no matter. He won't give up, regardless of the number of times he dies and regresses. He will only have to work harder. There was always a way out of crisis, and there was still hope for humanity. There will always be a way as nature intended. However, Lin Xiao's thoughts were cut off as all the wounds on his body were healed. Using an unbelievable amount of healing energy, the Demon King restored Lin Xiao's body to full health. Puzzled at the turn of events, he questioned the Demon King why he had healed him. However, the immediate answer shocked the living daylight out of Lin Xiao. Like a Giga Chad he is, the Demon King replied that he did it because Lin Xiao was a regressor. Given his familiarity with the demonic beasts of the lower floors and all his skills and shortcomings, it's as if he had a clairvoyant skill. However, if he really had a clairvoyant skill, he wouldn't have been so surprised when he saw him. That only means Lin Xiao is a regressor, right? And it's more than one regression. Is it your second regression? Or perhaps third? If I kill you now, you will regress and do it all over again, won't you? Over and over again, repeating an endless loop. And sooner or later you will kill me. Judging from your expression, it seems that I guessed right. With a mischievous laugh, he continued that Lin Xiao wasn't calm enough to fool him. You shouldn't worry because he's not going to kill him or let him die. And with that, a loud snap echoed the room as he snapped his fingers. With immediate effect, a massive purple aura engulfed Lin Xiao as he continuously wondered why his fate had to end like this. After all, he was supposed to be the protagonist of this story. As Lin Xiao's equipment tried pathetically to protect him, his armor melted on him, becoming his prison that binds him, rendering him unable to escape. Also, the Demon King's healing technique will endlessly continue to heal Lin Xiao, so he doesn't die even if he wished for it. Again, the Demon King acknowledged Lin Xiao's equipment, but as usual, it wasn't even able to withstand a casual wave of his hand. Ironically, the protagonist is the one having protection of the plot armor, right? The Demon King thought as he headed towards his throne and took a seat in a majestic scene. On his throne, he released a light blue aura towards the dead bodies in the middle of the room. This immediately turned the corpses into blue crystal among the array of sparkling blue crystals decorating the room. The Demon King wondered that every person once in their life felt like they were the protagonist, so in order to determine whether they're the protagonist or not, they can only be answered by a prophet, but only historians will know the one who emerges as the final victor is the protagonist. Why? Why am I wondering this, you might ask? Well, it's because I am the final and strongest being in my domain. The Invincible Boss. The scene shifts to the city the next day, where Lin Xiao and his team's death was being broadcast on every news channel. Their place of death was the final floor, and the Awakeners Association expressed their deepest condolences but urges everyone not to lose hope. They call on all those who are capable to continue to challenge the tower and prevent the demonic creatures from invading the human world. Hearing this, the crowd was in uproar and mourning. The light of humanity, their greatest hero, destined to save them and end all darkness, wasn't able to defeat the Demon King. Among the crowd were two pairs of footsteps approaching, by Chief Feng and his simping follower Li Tian. As they head towards a dungeon, Tian questioned by Chief Feng if this was the S-rank dungeon he mentioned earlier. A dungeon was the place where the demonic tower connects with the world. It would appear at any place in the world, and numerous demonic creatures of the demonic tower flocked out of it within a period of time after appearing. Once the demonic creatures broke out from the dungeon, they wreaked havoc on the surrounding city. As such, most of the members of the Awakened Association explored dungeons found in the wild. And most of their time was spent finding and clearing the dungeons within a city's vicinity to ensure its safety. Bai Chi Feng and Tian entered the S-rank dungeon. Upon entering, Tian was a bit skeptical about Bai Chi Feng being able to clear an S-rank dungeon alone, and with certainty that the monsters in this dungeon would drop the Blood All. And on top of that, can the Blood All really defeat the Demon King? A blood all is a rule-based artifact, and the rule of this artifact was every attack will cause at least 1 point of damage to the opponent. Bai Chi Feng replied Tian that she should have faith that justice will always prevail against evil. Hearing this, Tian quickly started her bootlicking session, and with dreamy eyes, commented that Bai Chi Feng was a genius, young and handsome, her idol, and she will always support him. As long as he trains a few more years, he will definitely be stronger than Lin Xiao. Staring at the huge dead monster in front of them, Bai Chi Feng knew that someone else was already there. Did he get the blood all? Tian curiously asked. Sitting on the dead monster was the Demon King, who commented that it was obvious that there were always a smart person who will try to use the blood all to defeat him. Knowing this in advance was the reason he came here for it. Unbeknown to whom he was addressing, Bai Chi Feng stretched his hand and arrogantly asked the Demon King to hand over the blood all. Amused at such audacity, the Demon King questioned how Bai Chi Feng didn't even know who he was. Yet he wants to mug him? It's for the sake of the entire human race. How can it be called mugging? I'm Bai Chi Feng, surely you've heard of me, right? Such a powerful item will definitely be more useful in my hands than yours. This is all for the sake of defeating the Demon King. This is all for the sake of justice. The Demon King, having enough of Bai Chi Feng's horseshit, launched a strike. Seeing this, Bai Chi Feng immediately got alarmed and conjured an absolute defense with his crystal magic cube. It was a rule-based artifact that creates an unbreakable shield within 2 meters, capable of protecting anyone regardless of the level of the attack. Bai Chi Feng gritted his teeth and wondered how this young guy was able to have such magic power. Cold sweat broke out on his face as he realized that the guy might not be human. Wait, could he be? Bai Chi Feng stared at the Demon King with a newly found fear. The Demon King grabbed a struggling Tian by the neck and pointed at Bai Chi Feng. You're the rumored successor of Lin Xiao, right? How about we make a deal? As long as you destroy that magic cube of yours, I give you my word that I will let you and this little admirer of yours go. Hearing this, Bai Chi Feng clenched his fist, commenting that if Tian dies, it's for the sake of humanity. He will build a memorial in honor of her. Without hesitation, he launched towards the Demon King, who swiftly dodged his incoming fist. The Demon King was amused at Bai Chi Feng's willingness to sacrifice Tian for his deluded victory against him. Bai Chi Feng pointed coldly and with an accusatory look, replied that the strongest heroes were always alone. It was inevitable that there was going to be sacrifices amongst the people beside the hero. The Demon King put Tian down and questioned that some human might think otherwise though. Hearing those harsh and cold words from Bai Chi Feng, Tian was downhearted and felt betrayed. But no matter, her simping was beyond reason, overriding everything, including her death. She shouted loudly that Bai Chi Feng shouldn't care about her and quickly used the magic cube to escape. However, Bai Chi Feng drew his sword saying that he was a genius blessed by the heavens, the new hope of humanity, so how could he run away? He then took a stance and continued that justice will always prevail against evil, because only those who side with justice have the determination and the will to win against all odds. For humanity, the future, and the entire world, he will defeat him here and now. Tian stared in complete awe as a loud laugh echoed the entire dungeon. The Demon King laughed like a madman at the rant he just heard. The level of delusion of this poor idiot was beyond maddening. Then, like flipping a switch, the Demon King smirked and stared coldly at Bai Chi Feng. If you're not gonna run, then let me send you on your way. Suddenly, a massive purple vortex surrounds Bai Chi Feng. Then, he was immediately plunged into the earth in eternal darkness. As he submerged deeper, he questioned himself how could he lose. He didn't want to die. Up above him was the Demon King, who commented that he should feel free to take a sip from the Nether River if he was fucking thirsty. After all, a hero of justice should have long been prepared to sacrifice his life, right? What's more heroic enough than your death? Bai Chi Feng begged to the Demon King that he doesn't want to be the sacrifice. He can't end like this. The Demon King should spare him. But the Demon King just walked away without a single glance, even nonchalantly ignoring Tian, who stared dumbfounded, tears streaming down her cheeks as she asked herself in complete disbelief. Did Bai Chi Feng just die? Is he going to kill me too? Turning around, Tian was shocked to see the Demon King entering a portal. Still in shock, Tian asked if the Demon King was really letting her go. The Demon King was climbing a flight of stairs and replied that he gave his word that he will let her go if the magic cube was destroyed. However, if they were to meet again, that's a different story. Too bad for that poor idiot who chose death instead. Hearing this, Tian was unable to comprehend what was happening as she stared at the Demon King disappearing figure. At the other end of the stairs was another portal, and as he emerged from the other end, the Demon King took on the appearance of Bai Qifeng. On the streets, he heads towards the Awakeners Association headquarters. At the Awakeners Association headquarters, the short-haired assistant of the two at the help desk blushed furiously as she asked if Bai Qifeng was an Awakener. However, she was interrupted by her co-worker, who couldn't help but blurt out how handsome Bai Qifeng was. Asking for Bai Qifeng's name, Bai Qifeng grinned and replied that he was very happy to join the Human Association of Awakeners. Meanwhile, at the Seven Elders Hall of the Awakeners Association headquarters, an elder, with a regretful tone, mentioned how out of the 7 of them, 6 were left. Their chosen among them, Lin Xiao, who had the power of regression, failed at challenging the demonic tower. The Awakeners Association president reminded the elders that as long as the Demon King is within the demonic tower, he will receive the unconditional, unrestricted vitality and infinite mana blessing of the demonic tower. They can't let their heroes keep sacrificing themselves. They must come up with another plan. He had already called upon all of humanity to abstain from challenging the demonic tower. They must implore everyone to search for items that can seal the demonic tower. They just need to seal the Demon King and the demonic creatures within the demonic tower forever, therefore ensuring that the demons could never storm into the cities through the dungeons. And with that, humanity will be safe forever. A female elder replied that she had already summoned a chosen one from a parallel world. Henceforth, she will be addressing him as the traveler from a place called Earth. Of course, the president must keep this a secret. Even the traveler doesn't know that he was summoned to save this world. After all, saving parallel worlds has always been the destiny of travelers, isn't it? As of now, his soul is residing in Lin Xiao's little brother's body, Lin Feng. It's said that ever since he traversed into this world, he has been acting preserved and has unique thoughts. Right now, he's leading a small but strong party and advancing into the dungeon searching for artifacts that can seal the demonic tower. Hearing all this, the prophet continued that on the night of the full moon on the previous month, he made a divination for Lin Feng. With an expression of a homeless drunk, he proceeded to say that it's said that Lin Feng will soon find the artifact to seal the demonic tower. That being said, they should be expecting the demonic tower to be sealed very soon. On the corridor within the headquarters, the old prophet, drunk and excited, brags about how his divination for Lin Feng will be the guide that elucidates how humanity will be saved. Hearing this, the female assistant was in all praise about the prospect of the demonic tower getting sealed very soon. However, her dreamy expression was cut short when she saw the creepy smile on the old prophet's face, who commented on the possibility of the Demon King leaving the demonic tower to the city when the tower gets sealed, therefore rendering all their effort completely useless. Has she thought about that possibility? Hearing this got her confused and frightened. Being an old pervert, the old guy slaps her behind and laughed loudly that he was just kidding around. The idea of the Demon King leaving the tower was absurd. Besides, if he did, he would no longer have the blessings of the demonic tower, making his strength drop to the level of a human expert. As he intensified his creepy expression, he continued with much enthusiasm about the fact that either the Demon King gets sealed within the demonic tower for eternity or leaves and be pursued by humans endlessly until he dies. Regardless of the outcome, humans are going to win as long as Lin Feng finds the artifact. As he continues to rant off, the annoyed assistant left, claiming she had work to do. As he opened the door to his room, he flinched when he noticed someone in there, waiting for him. Knowing who it was, he pointed at Bai Qifeng, questioning why he was in his room. When Bai Qifeng saw the old man, he immediately got excited and greeted him. Introducing himself, the old man said he already knew who he was, so he shouldn't be so stiff and formal with him. Hearing this, Bai Qifeng then asked that he heard that among the 7 elders, he was the only one who could divine everything about the future. That's the reason he had come here to request him to divine the Demon King's future. The old prophet brushed him off when he heard this. Besides, he is taking the matter of eliminating the Demon King too lightly. If he could divine the Demon King's future, then the light of humanity wouldn't have been Lin Xiao but him. And his divination art requires a full moon night and the touch of the person involved to activate. With that, Bai Qifeng's facial expression turns dark as he grabbed the old prophet's neck, questioning that today was the full moon, wasn't it? He then let go of the old prophet's neck, and as he did that, the old guy asked if Bai Qifeng was really dumb because the problem with what he wants to know lies with the fact that he had to touch the Demon King. Smoothing his neck, He continued that due to the fact that he doesn't have any combat abilities, he can neither storm into the demonic tower to make divination on the Demon King nor ask him to come find him in the city. Suddenly, he was cut off as he realized that the person in front of him wasn't Bai Qifeng, but the dark aspect and the embodiment of all the fears known to humans, the Demon King. As the old prophet's great divination art got activated, it says that the Demon King will be killed by a human the next winter. At the same time, Bai Qifeng also activated his skill, mind reading, and reads everything the old prophet just divined. And with that, he grabbed the old prophet's neck again and lifted him in the air as he begs for the Demon King to spare him. He can still be useful to him. As his figure begun to envelop in a darkish red aura, Bai Qifeng smirks and asked the old prophet to divine himself if he will get killed by him tonight. Hearing this, the old prophet was frightened beyond his sanity as he questioned like a retarded person, what did the Demon King meant by that? Meanwhile, not long ago, just like all typical transmigration comic, a story about a modern world guy transmigrating to a parallel world. And from that, he transformed from being trash to fighting monsters and leveling up, acting cool and mocking arrogant characters. On a tempestuous day, that trash defeats the Demon King, becomes the great hero that everyone loves and admires, and afterwards everything becomes rainbows and sunshine as everyone lived happily ever after. The end. This unfortunate fucker was that trash from Earth, living at the lowest and poorest level of the planet. One day, while he was reading that novel on his way to work, he got into an accident and died. And just like the prologue of every transmigration story, that's right, he transmigrated inside the world of that book and became one of the characters. And being a lucky wannabe, he became the character of the second son of the Lin family, the hope of humanity, Lin Xiao. Scratch that. Actually, he became Lin Zhao's useless little brother, Lin Feng, hedonist and evil, always living under the shadow of his older brother. This is the recollection he had of this character. However, all of this is going to change now that he's here. Since he was familiar with the novel's storyline and had an omniscient viewpoint, he knew the map's location that recorded the item that could seal the demonic tower. As such, he soon obtained the map that recorded the item and formed a team along the way. At the Awakeners Association headquarters main hall, Lin Feng excitedly thought of how his brother, Lin Xiao, is dead, paving the way for the real protagonist of the story to appear. Now was the time for him to save the world and become this world's real hero. Beside him was Liya, his fiancée. Lin Feng murmured to Liya that he will obtain the sealing item for sure, and when he does, he will save humanity like a true hero. However, Liya just stared coldly ahead, remaining silent. Turning to look at her, Lin Feng thought of how wonderful that the ice-cold beauty of the story, Liya, was his fiancée. In his previous life, he couldn't even dare to dream about being close to such a charming beauty. And Li Tian, who he encountered on the way, although she's always frightened like a rabbit, looking for him to save her, she will be useful eventually. Roughing Tian's hair like a little child, Lin Feng reassured her that the association headquarters is safe so she shouldn't worry. And with that, Lin Feng continued to daydream about the comfortable feeling of getting along with an airhead beauty who thinks of nothing but romance. As expected, transmigrators really had a cheat life. Anyways, Lin Feng told his team that he had to bounce. They should deal with the leftover matter. Curious, Tian asked where he was going. To the Great Prophet room to have a chat, Lin Feng replied as he walks away, thinking that once he really becomes the hero who seals the demonic tower, he will be able to get whatever he wants. Who cares about a few women? Meanwhile, at the help desk, Liya introduced Tian to the assistant, recommending her as a new member of Lin Feng's team who wants to join the association. Introducing her as Li Tian, the only person who has seen the Demon King and survived. Hearing this, the assistant was stupefied. Tian proceeded to say that the well-known hidden genius, Bai Qifeng, was her leader. Unfortunately, they encountered the Demon King in an S-rank dungeon, and Bai Qifeng was killed by the Demon King. But she somehow managed to escape. Later on, she came across Lin Feng and Liya, and joined their team. Hearing this, the assistant was confused and said that Bai Qifeng was alive and well. He just joined the association a while ago, and went to visit the Great Prophet in his room. Tian and Liya were both utterly speechless hearing this. Meanwhile, at the Prophet's room, Bai Qifeng had reverted back to his true form, the Demon King. And still holding the old prophet in the air, he begs desperately to be spared. He doesn't want to die. He is willing to serve under him and do anything he asks of him. However, The Demon King just replied that was those words all he could say? How utterly boring. He proceeds to say that he used to think that all humans are just like Lin Xiao, full of courage, justice, and strength. But it seems like he's still unfamiliar with humanity. He will need to improve his knowledge about his enemies. To think an existence like this old fart was among humans is really sickening and disappointing. The concern in his heart has been greatly reduced in appreciation of his performance. Anyway, he'll be sending this wanker on his way. And with that, the old prophet died a miserable death, alone and unseen. The Demon King left the room, and again took on the appearance of Bai Qi Feng. Looking conflicted, Bai Qi Feng thought of how if he returns to the demonic tower, Lin Feng will obtain the sealing item just as the prophecy said, and he will be forever trapped within the demonic tower. On the other hand, if he goes and prevents Lin Feng from getting his hands on the item, he will not only fail but get killed by a hero in the process, just like the divination stated. With this dilemma, Bai Qi Feng wondered what he should do. With a resolved decision, the Demon King decided that it's still too risky for him to leave the demonic tower. Since he has gotten the content of the prophecy, he will return to the demonic tower first. Maybe later on, he will be able to find a way to get rid of the prophecy as well. As he gets ready to leave through a back door, someone grabbed him by the shoulder. It was Lin Feng, who questioned who he was. He had never seen Bai Qi Feng in the association's headquarters before. Hearing this, Bai Qi Feng wondered if he had been discovered. But he kept his cool and replied that he was an awakener that just joined the association. Lin Feng was momentarily surprised when he heard this. But when he saw the badge on his chest insinuating that he was indeed an awakener, and an S rank at that, Lin Feng excitedly asked if Bai Qi Feng would like to join his team. He introduced himself as Lin Feng, the one who will be sealing the Demon King very soon. Hearing his name, and the prospect of the sealing artifact being found a while later by this Lin Feng, a smile crept on Bai Qi Feng's lips as he agreed to join the team. As they walk down the corridor, Lin Feng brags about how lucky Bai Qi Feng is to have him as his leader. If he follows him obediently, he promises not to mistreat him in the future. Soon, his name will be known throughout the entire world. And he even saved a beauty during his last mission. She was Bai Qi Feng's follower. She was also the only person to have seen the Demon King and survived. Looking visibly bored with Lin Feng's egotistical and talkative nature, Bai Qi Feng just replied, uninterested and encouraging him to go on. As Lin Feng continued that the beauty's name was Tian Tian and she is now part of his team, Bai Qi Feng tried to quietly run away. Unfortunately, Lin Feng turned at that exact moment and questioned where he was going. Bai Qi Feng replied with the lousiest excuse that he suddenly remembered that a pig from his hometown was about to give birth soon. So he needs to return to help out with the postnatal care. But at that moment, Li Ye and Li Tian Tian walked in. Tian Tian loudly shouts Lin Feng's name as she waves her hand delightfully. Seeing this, Lin Feng waved back, and then whispered to Bai Qi Feng that he might not be aware, but he's surrounded by beauties every day, and it gets tiring sometimes. But he has no choice. They really like to follow him because he is the chosen one. As Tian Tian stared at the back of the figure in front of her, she curiously wondered aloud who he was. Damn it, this is the worst scenario possible, Bai Qi Feng annoyingly thought as he prepared himself for a possible confrontation. Turning his head, he gave a delightful smile and said hello to Tian Tian. As he braced himself for the worst, Tian Tian joyfully hugged him, saying how happy she is that he also managed to escape the Demon King, safe and sound. Lin Feng stared incongruously and thought that Bai Qi Feng should already be dead according to the original story. Tian Tian blushed furiously, telling Bai Qi Feng of how she's been thinking about when they will see each other again after their separation. Bai Qi Feng closely observes Tian Tian and wondered why she was behaving like this when he was certain she knew he was the Demon King. And with that thought, Tian Tian continued that she was really grateful to Bai Qi Feng for being her savior all this while. She's not an ungrateful person and will definitely pay him back for his kindness. In fact, from today onwards, she will continue to be his follower because she really admires strong people and she always pays back her debts. Bai Qi Feng was amused about what he just heard, responded that if that's the case then he promised not to mistreat Tian Tian in the future. At the same time, he found it quite intriguing that a human is admiring the Demon King and on top of that, wants to repay him for his kindness. It's his first time of seeing a human who wishes to seek refuge with him. Hearing this did not sit well with Lin Feng, who commented that she was his follower. However, he was cut off with Li Ye's sudden friendly attitude towards Bai Qi Feng. Her usual cold demeanor was nowhere to be seen as she commented that she heard a lot of great things about the rumored genius by Chi Feng. A dumbfounded Lin Feng tried to say that Liu should be on his side because she was his fiancée. But Liu just brushed him off and continued that this new development meant that both Bai Chi Feng and Tian were the only people to have seen the Demon King. Anyway, what did he look like? Tian just replied that the Demon King was ferocious and utterly terrifying, but Bai Chi Feng just described him as a bad person. These instantly caused both ladies and Bai Chi Feng to laugh carefreely. Lin Feng, however, was annoyed that Bai Chi Feng had just become the center of attention, overshadowing him. He thought that in the original story, Bai Chi Feng died at the hands of the Demon King early on. Li Tian should have been the only person who had seen the Demon King before. Did his actions cause the butterfly effect? He had to ask the great prophet about Bai Chi Feng to confirm everything. A few seconds after, a loud scream echoed the entire corridor, causing everyone present to flinch, wondering what was going on. The female assistant rushed towards them, and as she points towards the old prophet's room, she shouts that the great prophet was killed, but he was alive just 30 minutes ago when she saw him. Hearing this, Tian, Liu, and Lin Feng were shocked by this sudden news. Still in shock, Lin Feng commented that the people who visited the great prophet within those time frame was, but before he could continue, Bai Chi Feng finished his sentence by saying that Lin Feng and him were the only people who visited the old prophet within that time. Lin Feng screamed in anger about the bullshit Bai Chi Feng was saying. He didn't even get to see the old prophet. By the time he arrived, Bai Chi Feng was in front of the door, acting suspicious. It was in that moment that it occurred to Lin Feng that the culprit must be Bai Chi Feng. Pointing accusatorily at Bai Chi Feng, Lin Feng shouted on top of his lungs that he knew there was something wrong with Bai Chi Feng from the very beginning. He now knows why. The one who killed the great prophet was him. However, Liu grabbed his hand and cautions him to calm down. He was being too hasty. Lin Feng just waves his hand carelessly, pushing Liu to the ground. He then turned to Bai Chi Feng and continued that everyone shouldn't be deceived by the person in front of them, because he isn't Bai Chi Feng. He then angrily launched towards Bai Chi Feng, but Bai Chi Feng just smirked sinisterly and swiftly moved to the side, dodging Lin Feng's assault. Then, forming a karate chop hand technique, Bai Chi Feng casually smacked the back of Lin Feng's tripping form, causing him to scream loudly like a bitch. On the ground, Bai Chi Feng stepped on his head and told him to calm down. Seeing this, Tian was in her simping mode, grabbed a stun Liu by the arm, dreamingly thinking that this result was expected of the leader she follows. Staring calmly at Lin Feng, Bai Chi Feng wondered how weird it was for Lin Feng to be so certain that he was the culprit. Bai Chi Feng commented that he has heard about Lin Feng before. He was Lin Zhao's little brother, a worthless and untalented trash. Looking at him now had made him a believer that Lin Feng is even worse than what he imagined. Though he still likes his older brother, Lin Zhao is worthy of being a hero than Lin Feng will ever be. Hearing this, Lin Feng got really pissed off and wondered that he finally got to experience transmigration, receiving overpowering buffs, and became a person above others, and this Bai Chi Feng still called him trash. Liu walked towards Bai Chi Feng and pleaded that Lin Feng didn't do what he just did on purpose. He used to be an honest person. He had just become a little impulsive recently, so Bai Chi Feng shouldn't hurt him. Lin Feng used this opportunity to take out his S-class weapon, Omni Soul Racking Claw, and swung furiously at Bai Chi Feng. Bai Chi Feng stepped back, dodging the attack. Seeing the weapon on Lin Feng's hand, he commented that a trash like him even has an S-class weapon. Bai Chi Feng then silently thought that although an ordinary S-rank awakener wasn't even his opponent in a face-off, he remembers that Lin Feng wasn't among the list of human geniuses. Suddenly, a figure approached the scene, and with a light blue aura emitting from his mouth, he shouted for both Bai Chi Feng and Lin Feng to stop fighting. Lin Feng realized that his magic suddenly disappeared. As Bai Chi Feng turned towards the source of the voice, he realized that it was a rule-based power. The association's president awakened power was to make any supernatural power disappear within his domain. He commented on how every member of the association was a treasured manpower to fight against the demons. How can they do that while fighting among themselves? Looking visibly distressed, Bai Chi Feng thought of the fact that he wasn't at the demonic tower, where he had buffs like the unrestricted vitality, ignoring all the rules, and unlimited mana to aid him. It was too dangerous, and he needs to be careful of his behavior in the future. So with that thought, he respectfully apologized to the president, claiming that it was his fault and it will never happen again. But Lin Feng just shouted like an idiotic man-child, claiming that the president didn't interrupt when he got punched in the face moments ago, but when he tried to retaliate, the fight was called off. Is the president purposely taking sides? Does he also think of him as trash? Hearing this, Bai Chi Feng was puzzled that was this Lin Feng really the genius who was able to obtain an S-class weapon and the map of a divine item? If so, why does it look like he doesn't have the brains and character for it? The president replied that he'd never taken anyone's side. Everything he does is for the sake of the future of humanity, so Lin Feng should stop with his nonsense. However, Lin Feng turned to leave and said that he doesn't believe him. He knows that the president is looking down on him. But once he soon obtains the sealing artifact and seals the demonic tower, everyone will know who the real chosen one is. Everyone will be indebted to him for saving the world. Hearing Lin Feng's tiring tantrum, the president sighed loudly, placed a hand on Bai Chi Feng's shoulder, and acknowledged Bai Chi Feng for not being just strong, but also courteous and calm. Hearing this, Bai Chi Feng gave an innocent look and laughed brightly. All the while thinking what kind of a gigantic pile of bullshit was the association's president spurting. And what's wrong with all these humans liking him so much? The president continued that he'd already conducted a preliminary investigation regarding the great prophet's death. And there are traces of demonic power at the crime scene. Perhaps a demon escaped from a dungeon and killed the great prophet. It has nothing to do with humans. So as for the final verdict, it will require in-depth investigation. Anyway, the search for the divine item is imminent, so Bai Chi Feng should go together with Lin Feng to find it. And he should remember that he too shoulder humanity's future. Bai Chi Feng agreed and thought vindicatively that he does for sure shoulder humanity's future, but in the other way around. So with those words, the president left, saying that they should work hard because humanity's future will one day be tasked in their hands. Leah also said her farewell and was about to leave, when Bai Chi Feng grabbed her arm and told her to wait. He had a question for her. The Lin Feng she mentioned earlier, did his personality really change recently and become different from his past self? Can you tell me what happened? However, when he sensed Leah's uneasiness towards him, Bai Chi Feng wondered if she will get suspicious of him with his sudden interest about Lin Feng. Bai Chi Feng awkwardly laughs and apologizes for his sudden questions, but admits that he is just concerned, that's all. He also got impulsive and just made a scene with Lin Feng, so he had to apologize to him as well. All the while thinking he should be more cautious in the future in order not to be found out. Leah heard Bai Chi Feng's explanation and thought that Bai Chi Feng was indeed a nice and caring person. And he was even concerned about Lin Feng. Actually, Lin Feng used to be an honest and coward trash. But some time ago, his personality suddenly changed when he woke up one day. He even spoke about some weird stuff. Something about books, transmigration, cheat codes, and a parallel world. She thought he was just half asleep. After that, he suddenly became an entirely different person. Not only did he become flamboyant and bold, but he even obtained the location of some top-class items and weapons from who knows where. Even the map of divine items. It was like he had the power of insight and could obtain anything. Which is why even if he's weak, by depending on those S-class weapons and items, he managed to barely reach the S-class awakener's threshold. The elders from both of our families said that Lin Feng received enlightenment. Perhaps he awakened some incredible skill? But he refuses to give anyone an answer. Hearing this, Bai Chi Feng thought of how this situation wasn't as simple as what he thought it would be. Lin Feng was so sure that he wasn't Bai Chi Feng, but wouldn't dare to tell everyone the reason. Well, with his impetuous personality, what kind of reason will cause him to know something but doesn't dare to speak it out? He even refuses to tell his family and fiancé. Then Bai Chi Feng smiled knowingly and continued that unless he's not the original Lin Feng. He's looking for death if he tells his family the truth. Parallel world? Changes in personality? Knowing everything? Intriguing. He's afraid that they might come to the conclusion that the real Lin Feng has been possessed. At that moment, a loud noise echoed nearby, causing the three of them to wonder what it was. Leah, visibly shaken, asked Bai Chi Feng if he knew what it was. Outside the association headquarters, an A-class demon, Corpse Canine, rushed out from a dungeon into the city. And Lin Feng seemed to be fending it off. Lin Feng, with his S-class weapon, Racing Flames Frost Flying Sword, launched up high in the air. And with his endless self-praise, swung his sword as countless ice shards pierced the demon. Having a brief moment of respite, Lin Feng didn't waste that opportunity to showboat as he takes out another S-class weapon, Meteor Star Sword. With the cringy words of how he is going to be the hero that will protect everyone, he demanded that everyone's attention should be on him. Lin Feng then released a golden slash with his sword. And as he wanted, the crowd was in full force, praising him as the new genius who has been in the spotlight recently. Liu couldn't help but become a fangirl at the scene. Meanwhile, in the crowd was Bai Qifeng, who stared with a knowing look, thinking that corpse canines were stray animals in the city that were slaughtered by humans. After their death, their resentment latched onto the demonic energy in the demonic tower and condensed into an A-class demon. They are quite rare species of demons, so the majority of humans are not familiar with them. Moreover, they also have a distinct characteristic. As Lin Feng continued to release endless waves of sword aura at the demon, the corpse canine demon had a trump card, unfamiliar to humans, and that was once it received enough attacks. It fakes death, and then rejuvenates as an even stronger demon, a monster among the ranks of S-class. As Lin Feng unsheathed his sword, the crowd went crazy, praising him with endless love. Meanwhile, Bai Qifeng just stared nonchalantly as the two ladies watched the scene in amazement. Lin Feng soaked everything in, and with a self-centered posture, he thought of how he's been showered with praise for just taming an A-class demon. Once he seals the demonic tower, his name will be the hot topic throughout the world forever. Suddenly, a terrifying growl sounded behind him, causing him to widen his eyes in shock. The growl grew intensely as the corpse canine demon rose on its feet. Turning his head with a terrified expression, Lin Feng was moments away from shitting himself as he stared at the demon dog, which has mutated into an SS-class demon, the Hell Canine Demon. The Hell Canine Demon opened its mouth, and a huge wave of flames gushed out. Lin Feng braced himself, covering his face with his hands, and bore the full force of the flames. This mutated demon continued to release these intense flames for about a minute, which trashed Lin Feng across the street. With Lin Feng on the ground spurting a mouthful of blood, the crowd watched the entire scene, dumbfounded. Then, as they overcame their state of shock, they began to run in all directions, terrified and shouting for someone to save them. On the other hand, Lin Feng stared at the demon dog in disbelief, wondering if the demon had evolved into a legendary SS class. Leah rushed towards Lin Feng and offered some assistance, helping him on his feet. As the demonic beast towered both Leah and Lin Feng with a suppressive killing intent, Lin Feng couldn't help but look back at the demon with a somewhat pitiful look. Tears streamed down Leah's cheeks as she wondered if they were done for. However, in that moment, Bai Qifeng, like a venomous snake, leaped high with deadly intent, and with his raised left hand enveloped in a purple aura, he smacks the demon dog directly on the head, shocking the terrified Lin Feng and the crying Liu. Bai Qifeng then murmured in a low tone, questioning the demonic beast if it doesn't even recognize its master. When it found out who Bai Qifeng was, it halted its movement, then lied down in a frightened state, shaken uncontrollably. Bai Qifeng coldly told it to scram. And with that, this huge demonic beast ran away like its life depended on it. Seeing the demon running as fast as it could, shaking and scared shitless, the terrified crowd, confused and somewhat relieved, murmured among themselves about what just happened. Did that demon just run away like a coward upon looking at Bai Qifeng? And didn't it get stronger just now? Or was Lin Feng just weak? As Leah helps a beaten-up Lin Feng, she thanked Bai Qifeng for saving them and curiously asked how he managed to scare off an SS-class demon. Bai Qifeng just feigns a smile and replied that he didn't do anything special. From the looks of it, the demon looked strong on the outside, but it's actually weak and scared on the inside. Bai Qifeng thought that he can't let Lin Feng die just yet. He needs to find the divine item so he could destroy it. Anyway, if he feels grateful like Li Tian, at the very least, he won't target him in the future. However, like the idiot he is, Lin Feng immediately shouted that Bai Qifeng did everything on purpose, didn't he? Lin Feng grabbed Bai Qifeng by his shirt and continued loudly that there must be some kind of special secret about that A-class demon, and Bai Qifeng must have used a special approach to deal with it, didn't he? He also knew that the demon would suddenly get stronger. That's why he chose not to tell him on purpose. He wanted to watch him make a fool of himself, right? Anyway, is he happy now that he got what he wanted? He must have enjoyed the feeling of everyone admiring him. It's all his fault. He's such a scumbag. In front of all these people, he prioritized showing off over saving his comrade's life. That's the reason he just stood there and watched him get beaten up miserably. Hearing this, Bai Qifeng just stared coldly, finally understanding that not all humans deserve to be saved. As Lin Feng continues to whine and blame him for his own incompetence, Bai Qifeng had enough and grabbed Lin Feng's hand. And with a slight twist, Lin Feng screams like a bitch he is, as Bai Qifeng call him out on his nonsense. He commented that the demon was an A-class. What secret was there to know? He was incapable of defeating the demon, failed in playing the hero by extension. And now, he is looking for excuses from him to avoid embarrassment. In that case, he's not interested in participating. Lin Feng gritted his teeth in frustration, but heard murmurs among the crowd about him being so cranky, and blaming Bai Qifeng indiscriminately when he was the person that saved his fucking ass. Besides, he has no evidence, and was the one who failed in acting cool. So he wants to regain his pride by shitting on others. Tian made matters worse by commenting that Lin Feng suddenly became very strong with several questionable ways. Did he use some kind of forbidden art? Hearing all this, Lin Feng thought of how everyone was behaving like idiots. They can't even see through Bai Qifeng's pretense, and they are blindly leaning towards his side. Bai Qifeng let go of his hand. Then, with a mocking smile, stared down at Lin Feng and publicly offered a somewhat apology for the misunderstanding that just occurred. He stretched his hand as a form of reconciliation. Hearing this, Lin Feng was boiling with rage, his eyes turning crimson red like a demon. Knowing that Bai Qifeng was just playing innocent after receiving the advantage in this situation. But no matter, he too can play this game. So with that thought, he grabbed Bai Qifeng's hand, thanking and apologizing for losing his cool. It wouldn't happen again in the future. Bai Qifeng replied casually that there was no need for that. Leaning in closer to Lin Feng's ear, he continued that there was no need to thank him. After all, he was the one who killed the old fucking prophet, but due to his recent actions, he was not the only suspect. Lin Feng again lost his cool when he heard this. He then tried to hit Bai Qifeng, who raised his hands and offered no form of resistance. A few distance away was Liya, who grabbed Lin Feng's arm, questioning what he was doing. The crowd was still watching them. Does he want to be known as someone who targets anyone who saves his life? Hearing this brought him back to his senses. And as he stares at Bai Qifeng in absolute confusion, he wondered who Bai Qifeng really was and what was his goal. There was no mention of someone that strong acting as Bai Qifeng in the novel. And there's no way the novel's original story had gone wrong. Meanwhile, Bai Qifeng was also wondering that he had only wanted to snatch the sealing item from Lin Feng. However, if he becomes a hindrance, he will have no other alternative than to delete him. After all, if the sealing item is destroyed, humanity will perish sooner or later, and those who are annoying should die first. The scene shifts to a coffee shop the next day, where Liya invited Bai Qifeng for a cup of coffee as a form of gratitude for saving her. Although Bai Qifeng replied that it was nothing, he literally forgot of doing such a deed. Liu continued that the team was going to retrieve the sealing artifact tomorrow. Lin Feng never allowed anybody to take a look at the map, but only mentioned that they will be heading south. The location on the map will be far from the main city, so she hopes Bai Qifeng will overlook Lin Feng's behavior. She's known Lin Feng since they were young, and he is actually a good person. Bai Qifeng just listened quietly and thought that it was unfortunate that Lin Feng isn't the same person anymore. He also thought it was ironic that a dirty soul from a parallel world inhabited the body of an innocent human, enjoying the love and worries of a lover that shouldn't belong to him. And such a dirty soul is talking about becoming a hero who will protect this world from him. So with those thoughts, Bai Qifeng took a sip of the coffee in his hand and immediately spat it out, thinking of how disgusting it tasted. He found it difficult to understand humans' taste in certain things, and they seem to have increased over the years. As he wipes his mouth, he replied Liya, suggesting that her fiancé, Lin Feng, might be sick, which is why he has changed so suddenly. If she wants him to revert back to his original self, there is an item in the south. It can be obtained concurrently with their mission. With that, she can maybe change Lin Feng back to how he was. As Bai Qifeng finished his words with a light smirk, he laughed inwardly of how he will definitely obtain the sealing item. Hearing this, Liya got up from her seat, excited, and asked if Bai Qifeng was really serious. Could she really make Lin Feng go back to his original self? Of course, the Demon King replied with a bright and genuine smile while simultaneously laughing sinisterly about how things might unfold in the future. Meanwhile, on the streets outside was Lin Feng, who seemed to be having a main character syndrome. He gritted his teeth in frustration. He thought of how the current storyline was only in the prequel scenario. The actual story hasn't started yet. However, regarding this prequel, he clearly remembers that Bai Qifeng didn't come back alive. But the great prophet did die before the beginning of the story. Holding his chin, Lin Feng remembered that when he first saw Bai Qifeng, he was acting suspicious, and it looked like he was running away. But after he told him about the sealing artifact, he suddenly agreed to join his team. Wait, Did my transmigration and appearance cause a deviation from the original storyline? Was he supposed to leave this place and disappear silently? That must be the reason why the original story didn't record this unimportant person who impersonated Bai Chi Feng for a day or two. And the culprit who killed the great prophet was never found in the novel, because he was supposed to disappear silently without anyone knowing. No one found him either. He also never appeared again as Bai Chi Feng. But because of his transmigration, a person who was supposed to leave ends up joining the important mission of finding the sealing artifact. Will this change the story's original ending? Damn it, Lin Feng holds his head in frustration. He thought of how he was just trash in his past life. He was going to change his fate and become the protagonist after transmigrating to this world. In that moment, a familiar figure drew his attention, and as he stared at Linya in the coffee shop, he wondered what she was doing there with Bai Chi Feng. Lin Feng's expression darkens, and as he gritted his teeth to the limit, he reassured himself of how the storyline will never change. He will make sure of it. After all, he is the only person in the world with an omniscient viewpoint. He will obtain everything he wants once he seals the Demon King and all the remaining demons in the demonic tower forever. In this life, he is the chosen one. The next day, at the Awakeners Association's hall, Lin Feng and his team assemble in front of the association's president, who tells them that it is imperative for humanity to obtain the sealing artifact. Lin Feng, being the leader, should bear responsibility and lead his team to victory. So with that they departed. Lin Feng shot a glance at Bai Chi Feng and grinned proudly, thinking his moment to shine has arrived. However, Bai Chi Feng just stared and smiled knowingly at the idiot who had no idea what he is in for. A few days after, on a desolated field within the mountains, the team encountered a clutter of skeletal golem-like demons. And as they fended them off without difficulty, they were quickly surrounded by their countless number. It later became obvious that their overwhelming number was dragging the fight out. Lin Feng gritted his teeth, commenting on how annoying these demons were. On the other hand, Bai Chi Feng was incredulous with what he was doing. The Demon King couldn't believe that he was actually working with humans and killing demons. Was he sick in the head? He questioned himself with a mundane look on his face. He reassures himself that it's all an act, so he should just go with it. In that moment, a peculiar surge of magical power from behind drew his attention. It was a Lu Xiaoke, a member of the team, who raised his sword and activated his skill, Poison Element. Plunging his sword on the ground, he released a massive shockwave, which vaporized the demons in the entire vicinity. And as the shockwave cools down, Lu Xiaoke huffs loudly, clearly drained after releasing this considerable amount of magical energy. Bai Chi Feng watched Lu Xiaoke, quite impressed with his power. Li Tian, with a look of gratitude, praised him for his effort, saying that he was amazing. Lu Xiaoke nervously replied that his power wasn't particularly good in one-on-one fight, but is very useful against hordes. So in a situation like this, he thrives in his element. Lin Feng, with a knowing look, glanced at Lu Xiaoke and thought that he was right to have picked him to join his team. Then, he suddenly announced that he had something to tell everyone. The artifact was up ahead, but the terrain is rough, and they were clueless about the monsters ahead. It could be even riskier than their current situation. Besides, they've been on the move non-stop for the past few days. Why don't they head back to the town and take a break? He'll go and scout ahead first. Hearing this, everyone with the exception of Li Tian and Bai Chi Feng got triggered, questioning why he wants to do that alone. What if he faces mortal danger? But Lin Feng calmly replied that as the team leader, it's his responsibility in finding the safest path for them to move forward. Anyway, he had already made his decision, so there was no point in trying to persuade him. So with that, he turned to leave. As Bai Chi Feng stared at Lin Feng's disappearing figure, Lu Xiaoke, with a dramatic cry, shouted that their leader was a good person. A few distance away, Lin Feng grinned maliciously, thinking that what he was currently doing was effective, and they were all done to keep Lu Xiaoke. Lu Xiaoke was a rising star, born amidst the demon's lair and seasoned in the depths of poison caverns. He was a future SS ranker whose name will shake the world. Right now, their relationship was merely that of a short-term cooperation. In the original script, Lu Xiaoke was the protagonist's most trusted aide. His unwavering loyalty made him an important part of the protagonist's road to success. And that was possible because, in the original story, in order to cleanse the toxins that had accumulated in his body since he was a child, the protagonist had used several high-grade ingredients to concoct an S-class purification potion for him. And ever since then, Lu Xiaoke was willing to sacrifice his life for him. But now, before the story begins, Lin Feng plans to subdue him before the real protagonist appears. With that, not only will he get the artifact, but also have the future protagonist's destiny. He plans on replacing him and become the new hero of this world. Turning back, Lin Feng told everyone to wait for him back in the town. They will continue moving forward with the mission as planned after he comes to find them. And with that, he said his goodbyes and left. Lin Feng knew that only a few people know where to find the ingredients. Fortunately for him, he remembers the original novel's vivid description of the location. Lu Xiaoke, you will soon become my loyal subordinate. Meanwhile, Bai Qi Feng, still watching everything, remains silent, thinking that although he doesn't know or understand human nature, he feels like Lin Feng wasn't the selfless type. Leah also told everyone that she heard of an underground auction house not far from their current location. She was going to take a look and meet everyone back in the town in a few days. Hearing this, Li Tian offered to go with her. Stealing a glance, Leah thought of how she hopes that if it's as Bai Qingfen said, and if Lin Feng's soul was truly being devoured by a demon was the reason behind his sudden change in personality, then she will acquire the item that can purge souls from the auction and bring the real Lin Feng back with any means necessary. And with that, they departed. At that moment, Lin Feng's lackey, with a suspicious look, tried to intimidate Bai Qi Feng into following his young master's orders. He thought of how his young master was always annoyed with Bai Qi Feng, so by default, Bai Qi Feng was obviously not a good person. But Bai Qi Feng, cunning and always a step ahead, replied to the airhead that he was deeply moved by Lin Feng's decision to scout ahead alone. However, he can't help but worry about him. So how about they secretly follow him? That way, if he falls into danger, they could help him. The two immediately got excited hearing this and naively complimented Bai Qi Feng of being not only smart but kind-hearted as well. Leah, in hearing distance, became convinced that Bai Qi Feng was really worried about Lin Feng and was also a warm-hearted person even though he doesn't show it. Seeing the two totally convinced, Bai Qi Feng nervously answered that he was being overpraised for nothing. After all, everything he does is for the sake of humanity. Inwardly, he grins devilishly at the prospect of finding out what that two-faced bastard was up to. Meanwhile, in a dark and inauspicious setting, Lin Feng came across an S-rank dungeon, the malicious chessboard. Again, Lin Feng thought that according to the original book, one of the ingredients of the purification crystal was somewhere on this chessboard. Unfortunately, he doesn't know which chess piece it was located in. However, in that moment, Lin Feng felt a sense of dread. Turning around, he was astonished to see the king chess piece directly behind him. Lin Feng tried to evade it, but found out that the king was very fast as it charged at him.